Hi, welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be working on Hardhat, connecting Hardhat with Visual Studio Code. If you'd actually would love to know how to use your Hardhat, which is a development framework for testing, debugging, for Web3 development, then this is the video for you. We'll be using Hardhat on Visual Studio Code IDE in order to set it up and write a very little code on it, basically a smart contract, and try debug it to see if it works perfectly. So without wasting much of your time, let's get into it. So first of all, we'll do very simple thing, which is to first of all check the pre-requested tools which you need in order to be able to use this hard hat we're talking about on your system. Now you must make sure you actually have Node.js set up on your system. So in order to check if you have Node.js, if you're using Windows, all you need to do is this. If you're using Windows system, um, for this tutorial, I'll be using Windows basically. So all you need to do is to check if you have Node.js installed. So you type node dash v to check for the version itself. So yeah, I have Node.js installed. Secondly, you need to actually make sure your Visual Studio Code is working perfectly. So this is just the two main prerequisites you need in order to go on this tutorial. So let's begin. So first of all, the first step actually would want to do is to head over to our command prompt. Let me use command prompt again. We would actually be creating a folder where would um where would actually want our project which we'll be creating, that's a smart contract project, to be located at. So I'll be using command prompt to write everything, I mean to create it. So first of all, I would actually navigate to desktop because I want to create it on desktop. So desktop, I'm on desktop right now. So we would actually create a new folder which is hard hat hard hat hyphen Visual Studio Code tutorial. Just a simple title. It's created now. So let's navigate into our folder by just typing cd hard hat. That's tutorial. Sorry, mistakenly doubled it. Let me copy it straight to it. So okay, so we are on our folder where we want to write. Let's check out our folder if it is available right now. But I know I have created it already. This is it. Hardhat VS Code tutorial. So okay, so this is it. So next thing we would want to do is to actually create, to check if we have the necessary VS Code extension, you understand, in order to run Hardhat. So head over to VS Code. Head over to VS Code. So head over to VS Code. This is it. We're on VS Code right now. So first of all, what you would want to install is your Hardhat Visual Studio extension, which is Solidity. Check on the extension part. Solidity is one of the extensions really needed in order to work on this. So if you see now, if you watch on my screen, I have it installed already. I've been using it, so you can actually install it if you would wish in order to work with this. So this is only the essential we'll be installing right now for this tutorial. So okay, let's head over to yeah. So I'll still be using the command prompt to create every other setup for the hard hats. I can actually use the terminal here on Visual Studio Code, but I want you basically to know how to use your terminal itself, command prompt terminal, in order to run some codes, you understand, setups perfectly as well. So the next step actually would want to do specifically is just to actually navigate to our folder for our project, which is this. Now we are on our folder, basically on the command prompt. The next thing we would want to do is to actually install npm, basically node. Is actually to create a new node project. Yeah. So all we need to do is to say npm init. I would actually be using -y just to do it defaultly, everything, all the questions. So why am I actually installing this? I'm actually trying to initialize a new npm project specifically. You understand? So this is just what I'm trying to do. So next, it will create everything by default because I believe you already most people will actually, if you're coming from Web 2 space, you should know what this actually works for. So the next step basically would want to do is actually to install your hard hat. Install your hard hat. So in order to install your hard hat, what you need to do is npm install npm install save hard hat. Is installing. So for a few seconds. So yeah, it should be installed. So once it's done installing, we'll create a new hard hat project. It's still installing. Give it some seconds. Okay, it's actually done installing. So next step we'll just install our hard hat, which is by using npm install save dev hard hat. You understand? So the next thing or step we're going to take is to actually create a new hard hat project by actually saying npx hard hats. This will create a new hard hat project itself. You will see what will be displayed right now. To our smart contract. Now, if you watch, it says which version of hard hat would you like to use. What you will do is to actually click the first one, which says hard hat 3 beta recommended for new project. Now, it's on beta version, but it's still recommended as the productive and more recommended version for development. The Hard Hat 2 is the older version and some features are not really working currently. So go with the Hard Hat 3 beta. So click enter. Said where would you like to initialize your project? The dots currently means on this directory, on this current folder we are on, that's where we want to actually install it, and we'll just say yes. That's click enter. Now it's actually saying you can actually create a TypeScript Hardhat project using the node test runner and Vim, or you can actually create a TypeScript Hardhat project using Mocha or Etas.js or a minimal Hardhat project. Now, that first two would not be using it. That's a predefined code which they will actually use. But no, I want to go vividly into everything, explaining everything. So I'll be creating all the recommended folders needed to set up your smart contracts. You understand? Your hard hat smart contract environment. So we'll be going for the minimal hard hat project. We'll be creating this the folders recommended by ourselves. So so what would your project look like? Hard hat only supports EXM project. Would you like to actually change it the dot package.json to your to an EXM version? All you need to say is yes, true. So it's actually done. What next? It says you need to install some necessary dependencies, which yes, we need it in order to actually help this to work perfectly. You say yes, and it says it's actually installing. It will be done installing soon, and we're done installing it basically. Absolutely, we're done installing it now. If we choose the other aspect which says would you want to actually use TypeScript, like I said previously, would you want to use TypeScript and the two recommended libraries? If you choose it, it will create a predefined folders which you can use to actually continue, more like a framework libraries that have already been created. No, but we are actually trying to create ours, which I'll be showing you on this video. So now I'm done with using the command prompt. I'll head over to the VS Code basically and open the folder itself. Now you can see this is what we've created ourselves using the command prompt itself to create all the setup. Now, if you actually choose the type, would you want to use TypeScript? Actually, that's the predefined set of instructions which will actually create folders, recommended folders for creating a new smart contract and testing and debugging. Then you could have seen some folders here, but no, we'll be creating it ourselves. Create a folder called contract. I will explain. Now, before we create this folder, I would want to say this to you. If you want to know if your hard hat has currently been set up perfectly with your Visual Studio Code, all you need to do is to click Control Shift slash. Let's go head over to the terminal, and it's coming npx hard hat dash dash help. If the help actually prompts some information, that means it's perfectly set up. So let's check it. Yeah, we are good to go. So our hard hat and Visual Studio Code is perfectly set up together. It's working perfectly. So what we need to do now is to create. Would want to test, make our first write our first smart contract, a simple smart contract as well. Yeah. So first of all, create a folder, which the first folder will be contracts. Right. So this folder is contracts. This contracts folder, this is where all your Solidity source codes or source files will be located. And the file extensions are .so. You understand? They are actually known as .so extension. Now, let me create a file inside the contract, which I would name this file Hardhat tutorial. Hardhat tutorial dot so this for this contract itself folder. Now the next folder you'd want to create is the test folder. This is actually the folder that contains the JavaScript or TypeScript files used for testing your smart contracts, where you will test your smart contracts. So you say, let's create a file called hardhat tutorial dot give it the file dot txt. We are writing this on TypeScript. I forgot to tell you, hardhat actually accepts two languages defaultly. Either you write it on TypeScript or you write it on JavaScript. We'll be using TypeScript like you all see. So we're working with TypeScript specifically. So as test, the next one, the next folder I'll be creating is the scripts folder. This script folder basically are more like where we it's more like it's just optional folder specifically, you understand? That's actually used for placing standalone scripts. You understand? More like EGs, things like deployment scripts. You understand? So which actually is standalone, like I said, you understand scripts. We actually use it to skip stuff like the deployment scripts, you understand, to write stuff like the deployment scripts and all. So let me create a file inside, and I would say hard hat. Just want to make everything the same but different extension dot. Okay, so this script I will actually say this script I actually say this. I could actually write it the same thing, understand, just like we are working on. So I can actually use something called send.txt, but I might just use it send.txt. I was trying to just use the same thing like harder tutorial. So the other one, um, on every other folder, if it is for test, I will give it a different name as well. So, but this is okay. It's been created. So for the test, like I said, I created this harder tutorial.cs. If the name is not suited for you, you can always change it and give it another name. You can actually say counter. You can actually type it this way, counter.txt, if you want to. We just renamed it. And on this, we can actually leave this way. And we'll create another folder, another file on this folder. This folder basically contains the modules that handles deployment of your smart contracts. That's using the Hardhat ignition. So I just say this. This is how it's been written on the old version as well. So I'm using it. So the file we're creating inside. We'll type counter dot tx. Okay, this is what I created. So what else? I'm looking into the folder to see what else is remaining. I just created the contract. If you watch, I created the contract folder. I created the ignition folder. Supposed to add two folders, right? Created the scripts folder. I also created the test folder, which is this. So yeah, let me explain what tx config does JSON means. This ts.config.json specifically, what it does is more like in an environment, which is actually, let me open it up. Okay, so let me explain each and every one of these commands or files here. So the first one I would actually explain is this hardhat.config.tx. This environment is this is the main configuration file for your entire Hardhat project, defining the paths, network, plugins, and more. This is it. So this is what it does. If you can see, this is just how we'll leave it. Since it's a simple smart contract, we're trying to deploy and see if it will work. Basically, already our hard hats and Visual Studio is connected perfectly and it's working, but we'll still write a contract in order to see how it works. So this JSON package.json, all it does is this is a standard npm file that lists project metadata and dependencies. You understand? So this is just what it does, including the hard hat and plugins. So it's just a standard npm file that lists project data metadata. You understand? So the next is package.log just JSON. This is just more like the automatical generated file that logs the version of your dependencies, all your dependencies for consistent installs. You understand? It logs them. So let's write a simple smart contract right now. So we'll be writing it on TypeScript already, which we've already started. So we'll continue with TypeScript. So what we'll just do is to do the simple setup for smart contracts writing on Solidity. First thing we want to do is to create so let's start with the normal pragma. Like I said, the video is not for me writing smart contracts fully, but I'm trying to show you we trying to debug to see how it works perfectly on this setup when trying to write a smart contract. Let's use version 0.8.30. Let's just use this. We have version 33 currently on, but let's use 30. So the next thing we're going to write is contract, the building block for a smart contract. Let's say counter. Just giving it this name. And let's initialize a variable which will say on will actually be initializing unsigned integer, which would use and name it. Let's make it public. and name it variable underscore a. So now let's create an event. Let's declare an event. Name it increment. Uint. Let's give it a parameter. Uint. Let's give it a. Just give it a. So this event is a keyword, a way for smart contract to communicate with the outside world, like your web applications. The increment here is the name I gave to the event, more like. So the next thing we're going to write, I love commenting on my project, so but at this moment I will not comment. So but I'll try to explain what is being written in a quicker form. So let's create a function where we would write a set of instruction we want to perform. In check. Let's name it check public curly braces. Now let's actually say variable underscore a. We are calling the variable actually named up. eh. So variable underscore a plus equal to 1. So now what is this actually says, let's actually, like, let's say the code actually increments, the code here increments a by 1. You understand? It increments a by 1. So that's what I just wrote. So let's use emit increment. Now what this code means is the code increments variable a by 1. You understand? And actually emits an increment event with a value of 1 at the same time. So it's equal. So there will not be error. So I'm not trying to explain everything for the code. I'm trying to write a particular set of code so we'll see if our smart contract is working itself. That's the main goal behind this. So check, but maybe check by, just I named it anything. So uint, give it a parameter. Uint c. Let's give it c. Still explain. And at the front, make it visible public. And actually would say require c greater than 0. Keyboard, sorry for that. Let's actually do this now. This is trying to say, this code here tries to say this particular required by, as required by c greater than 0, then the the quotes I'm giving there, like you see, the quote I'm giving there is to give check, just trying to actually use it. It's a comment, check by dot colon increment should be positive. Okay, so this is what we just said, yeah. So let's give semicolon. Next is to say variable plus equal to c, which is the parameter we passed on top. So it's trying to say this variable declared on top very first, the variable declared very first place at the top increments by the imputed value, which is 1, and it tries to check if the imputed value 1 is greater than 0. You understand? It's trying to still check, like I said. So if it's actually greater than 0, it keeps checking. And now we would actually say C semicolon emits increment. So yeah, this is simple code I'm trying to write here, and I hope you saw the error that pops up. I mistakenly removed the curly braces that holds this downside. So yeah, let's check our code perfectly if it's actually written very well. Let me go through it. Okay. Um, want to say npx hardhat build. Let's see if it will work. Okay, it gives us an error. Don't worry about that. Let's solve it immediately. Says failed failed to create compilation job for file. Okay, make sure you're on the folder. So which we are on the folder where would want we actually created the file. Now let's try check if we still connect, if our smart contract is well created still. It's perfectly connected perfectly. So yeah, so let's check the code itself to know what is really the issue. So let me go through the code again. Let's say two. Let's try and debug it again. npx hardhat build. So okay, so I've checked the code again. Let's deploy again to see if it works. npx Hardhat. We are actually compiling it. Build. If it actually works perfectly, it will say one code has been compiled. Yeah, perfectly done. Says no contract to compile. First one, it says it has been compiled. It has been compiled. That's one of the reasons why I said no contract to be compiled. So these projects or this tutorial was all about creating a hard hat framework setup with your Visual Studio Code, whereby it will help you build more products and all. So if you love this tutorial, kindly subscribe. Thanks for watching.